Hey everybody. So I believe this is recording. So I'm going to do a little preview of what we're going to be doing and may go over a little bit more than just a preview. We'll kind of see how it goes. I'm doing the first day remote working from home. My internet's not always the greatest. So, and I know some of you guys have a lot of the same frustrations and concerns. So we're just going to have to, figure out how this is going to make it work one day at a time. So I'm in Blackboard right now. And I'm going to enter in student preview mode. This is for the HTML CSS2 class. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and start preview. So I'm going to be able to see exactly what you see. And if you hear like noise and stuff in the background, that's not my husband or my kid or the dogs. What you may hear is birds or people driving by because I'm out in my carport this morning and enjoying the sound of the rain. Anyways, so let's go ahead and start diving into week one. And I have the order of pretty much how I want us to be doing things on here. Now, this was originally a hybrid class. Now it's an online class for an undetermined amount of time. But there are 6 credit hours within this week because it's an 8-week course. So when I say day 1, day 2, and 3, they were typically supposed to be day 3, but because it was originally a hybrid format, one of those days obviously didn't show in the schedule. It's just the hybrid component of it. So there are 3 days of assignments and work. So let's go ahead and start with day 1. And what day 1 is going to be is basically a review of HTML and CSS from the last class. So let's go ahead. And so I do a basic review of a text editors and how the tools can make it easier to read and understand. Some examples of text editors that are also IDEs are right here. VS Code is what we've been using in class. I wanted us to kind of start experimenting with Cloud9 just to get used to something different. And because it's actually an AWS resource as well. Sublime, I don't think anybody uses Sublime, but it's basically another IDE or text editor. Notepad++ is another one, and then there's Notepad. Now, Notepad, if you're on a Microsoft Surface, I think some of you might be on Macs. If you're on a Microsoft product, it's Notepad. It's just like the simple Notepad, like here. If you're on a Mac, I think it's called TextEdit. Anyways, but it's a very simple document where there's nothing, no frills, no fancy. Like you could type in whatever and it won't capture typos like I just did. It's very low key, low capability, but it's also a nice tool to have because if you don't need all the bells and whistles that come with Word or Google Docs or anything of that nature. I do use Notepad as a lot, just as a tool, just to make notes as a Notepad. And you can actually type and create web pages in here. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that an IDE does, so most people don't, unless they're a glutton for punishment. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Like I said, we use pretty much a VS Code in class. I would like to use Cloud9, but it is on AWS, so you do need the internet, which is going to be an issue. So we'll see how that's going to go. Yeah, IDE says editor. I thought it was an environment. I might have to check on that. Let's go ahead and do a check on that. That's what Google's for. IDE. Environment. Okay. I don't know how I got editor. Let's change that. And this is why I have it as a link in Blackboard as opposed to downloading and then uploading it, because I can just make these changes and then you're going to see the link and voila. I don't have to re-download and re-upload, and it's annoying for everybody, namely me. So an IDE can allow developers to edit, compile, and debug code. And if you've played with, this is something I was working on last night. But you can see all the colors in there. And you can see how that can really help you whenever you're creating something. I'm going to go ahead and close this. But this is VS Code. If you don't have it yet, go ahead and go to just Google VS Code. And then download it. If you have problems downloading it, because see, on my internet, I can access things, but sometimes I just cannot download it because it just takes too much bandwidth and it just times out. It just doesn't work because of my internet speed. So if you're in a situation similar to that, some online IDEs that you can use, just as a point of reference if you need to, is repl.it. It's already come out. repl.it. Okay, so I've just used this for the Logan Hockey Middle School when I do visits with them. So you would just create an account, takes you to a different page, and then you would complete the information there. But this is basically an online IDE. Let's see what this one looks like. And it's free, and it's thinking. Just want to go ahead and pause this while it's thinking. Okay, it opened up, but basically this is the online IDE of REPL. This is what I was working on with them, Logan Hockey Middle School. On the left-hand side, it has the files. It's very similar to VS Code if you've used it before or any other IDE. So you would do your texting, typing there, and you would click run, and then it would show on this side. Okay. Again, this is something like I said I was showing to the middle school. Anyways, then you can actually share it in a new tab and stuff. Okay, so that's an online IDE. So if you have trouble getting anything to download, but you do have internet, it just downloads just won't work because of bandwidth or other issues, then you have an online IDE version. I'm not going to go into Cloud9 in this particular video. That'll be another video. I had some troubles with it, and I was trying to do it yesterday, and I don't know if it was because of the internet speed or what. So I would like to be able to use Cloud9. It just may not happen. So it allows developers, so an IDE, going back to IDE, allows developers to edit, compile, and debug code. Go ahead and put something on here. Online, let's see, VS Code can be downloaded from and if you've had my class before, you know I'm sometimes kind of bad about just assuming things or will skip over like a really important thing just because I just don't think about it. It's not intentional. I just don't think about it. So if you see me doing that, like missing a big step, let me know because I just do. I don't know. It's not intentional. I'm trying to improve at it, but I forget. I don't know what else to tell you. But I need you guys to help me whenever I miss something or skip something or just assume you guys know something. So anyways. And so that's an online IDE you can use. REPL is in. Okay. Let's see. Notepad is not an IDE. As you can see, when we open up Notepad before, it has no bells and whistles. It's just plain text, which can be nice, but we like the bells and whistles. Some dev tools that we'll be using. Everybody, I would assume, has Chrome on their computer. Download it. as their browser. And we'll be playing with some of the Chrome Dev Tools. Another good one that I personally like is Firefox Developer. It's another browser you can download. We've not played with it in any of the classes yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Just be aware that this is another one I like. I think we may start kind of going into it, using that more, because when we start going into something like CSS Grid and Flexbox and stuff, because I like their tools better as opposed to Chrome's. But anyways, that's further down the line. But if you want to go ahead and download both browsers, that's fine. So just a review of what HTML is. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And I'm going to try to do something that may or may not work, so just bear with me. I'm going to go back into Blackboard. And if I'm going to collaborate, then I'm going to practice. Now, I still have that practice open, and there's not any time that it's going to close. Like it doesn't have an end time or end date. So if anybody just wants to go in there and practice, in the practice session, just to kind of get the feel for it, you're more than welcome to. So this is a good feeling of what it's going to be like when we try to do this in person, virtually, which is why I'm recording it, because I don't know how well this is going to do virtually live. So we'll go ahead and pause this. So this is what I'm seeing so far. So this is going to be interesting, and we might have to come up with a plan B on that. So I was able to get logged on, and then I remembered to use this tool, I have to be logged in as teacher. So I had to log back out, and then, yeah. Anyways, but it's working eventually. It does take a little bit of time. So that's something to be aware of. So back to what I was wanting to talk about. HTML. So if you remember from the last class, the first class, we did something called mind mapping. It's kind of like brainstorming. It's just a different way to develop understanding on something. So we're going to do a mind map on HTML. So I'm going to do this pencil just because I have better control over it. It's not as pretty, but you get the idea. And so we're going to put HTML in here. And HTML can be broken down into two little things, right? Okay. One is, let's do this. Go ahead and do that one. One is hypertext. Maybe it's supposed to be 2 words. I don't know. I'm putting this one right now. But hypertext, let's go ahead and do 2 just so you can see. I don't know, it's supposed to be 1 or 2 words. Hypertext is HT, and then ML is markup language. Okay. So that is hypertext markup language is what makes up HTML. So what exactly is hypertext and what exactly is markup language? So hypertext is basically, didn't give myself very much room here, did I? I don't think it scrolls down. Hypertext is basically text or images that can be links to other documents. So those other documents can be another website. Those other documents can be another file within the same folder structure that your local computer has. It can be whatever, but it's a hypertext. So it's a text or an image or any other kind of element with HTML that can be a connecting point, can be a gateway or connector to another page or another resource. So the way that works is through something called markup language. And what markup language is a specific type of text, characters, and syntax that the browser interprets and displays. Okay, so that's basically what HTML is. And those special characters can be something like, still got my text on. It's going to go up here. Could be something like this is an opening paragraph tag, and we would type something like this as a paragraph, and then we do the closing paragraph tag, and it has that / right before the P, which indicates it's a closing paragraph tag. And what that does is it tells the browser, it's like, hey, this is a paragraph, and the browser has default settings on what a paragraph should look like, unless you make some changes with CSS. But we'll get more into that later. So this is a paragraph tag. That's just one example. There's all kinds of other tags, and the expectation is not for you to memorize all these tags, because you won't. I still have to go online and look them up. And everybody's got their preferences on resources. One of the ones that I like, just because the user interface and finding information is pretty easy, is this one right here. It's W3 Schools. Some people have different mixed feelings on this particular website. It's usually the more advanced people that have mixed feelings on this website. But for the stage that we're at, this is a really good website. It's another one that some people may like better. It's Mozilla.org. Okay, maybe it's not Mozilla.org. Developer.mozilla.org, sorry. And so this can actually this can be used as a reference as well. It's from Mozilla, which is the makers of Firefox. And sometimes just to find something in there can be a struggle. So it has information in here as well. There's a lot more information. And the W3 Schools, if you're just needing to find something quick, just as a refresher, or if you're just basically trying to understand the concepts of it before diving into deeper, this tends to be a little bit better. Okay. And there's exercises and stuff you can do online just to, reinforce what you're learning. So that's basically what HTML is. So let's go back in here. It's saved as an HTML file. So whenever you save it, you would save it like save as index.html. Elements of a HTML page are the syntax of the web page, and that can be like the P tag I was showing earlier and saying this is a paragraph. The structure of the web page is another element of an HTML page. HTML is the structure of the web page and define its content. Elements provide the structure of the web page and define its content. The syntax of an HTML, most have opening and closing tags. So remember here, this had the closing P. Back to pencil. And one change color. So remember, this had this closing P with the / Most of them, if they have an opening like this, they will have a closing. There are some exceptions, and that's something you'll learn on the way too. Doc type must be written on line 1 of every HTML page. And it tells the browser two things: what type of document it is, saying it's an HTML, and what version of HTML is being used, which is the current version of HTML5. HTML4, let's see if I can see it, if this has anything in here on it. Just to show you as a reference. I think this is it. Okay. Okay, so the doc type declarations, which is what we're talking about right now, right here. So in HTML5, it's pretty simple. You know, you can see that right there. In HTML4 was, I guess, multiple versions of this. Oh, that's 4, and then 1, 1, 1, and XHTML. So there's a little bit of history behind it, where it's not really something to devote a whole lot of time to, but just be aware, HTML5 is the most current, but it's not always been HTML5. There were some ones before then. So if you go to a website and it looks something like this, and you look on their source code, it may look something like that. I mean, if it's still old and it's not been updated, it's always a possibility. And something like this, you know, even the HTML1, I suppose. I mean, anything's possible. But anyway, so that's what doc type is. It has to be on line 1. In HTML, after you type in the doc type HTML, you have to the opening tag for HTML. Like I said, it's added after the doc type HTML, and everything in between the opening HTML and the closing HTML, which you can see has that / is interpreted as HTML code. There are 2 main parts of HTML page. There's the head and the body. The head includes the metadata for the web page, which is basically information about the web page that's not displayed on the web page. Another thing that it also includes is the title, which is what shows in the tab for most modern browsers. So you can see, like, this one says W3 Schools Online Web Tutorials, HTML doc type, content, all that. What's going to show in the title is what's going to show in the tab. So that's what I just now said. Displays the name in the browser tab. The body, you know, just think about, you know, your personal body. You have your head and it's on top of your body. That's how this goes. The body is placed under the head or after the head. The content that is displayed on the web page goes in between the body, the opening and the closing body tags. So anything that you want to display, that the browser to display, goes here. The anchor tags, which are represented with the A's, it creates a hyperlink to another web page, because remember what HTML is, it's a hypertext markup language. So this is how things started getting hyper, I guess you could say. They need those A's, which represent an anchor. It requires an href attribute to work. So an anchor is just an anchor point. It's an element, HTML element, but an attribute is needed. I guess you can kind of compare it to an adjective or something, if any of you guys like English. I guess you could maybe compare it to an adjective or an adverb, something like that, where, you know, this is a noun or a verb. I have to think that through a little bit more clearly, which one would be more accurate. Let's just go with it's a verb, okay? And in relation to that, you have the href, and, you know, we have that as an adverb. Adverbs are not required for verbs, but hrefs are required for A's, for the anchor. So I don't know if that's helping it or making it more confusing. But you have an anchor tag, but it needs to have a ref. Because basically what that ref is, the href rather, is a hyperlink reference. So maybe this might make it more sense. It's used with the anchor tag, and it's a reference point is basically what it is. We're telling the anchors, like, hey, this is the reference point, the hyperlink reference that we want to show whenever somebody clicks on this link. So what this does right here, it makes it a link that you can click on. It can be a text or it can be an image file. And my battery's getting ready to go die, so I need to plug in, so I'm going to pause this.